Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar. We are talking about sustainable success in 2024, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you joining me here today. So welcome, everybody. We're getting started. Welcome as you join the Zoom room. Welcome, Team Replay. This session is being recorded, and I will send a copy of it, or a recording, I should say, to everybody who registered. So if you weren't able to make it here live, you are more than welcome. We are so excited to have you here with us. And whenever it is that you're watching the replay, I invite you to take today's materials and think about how they apply to you. And if you're watching as a replay, you kind of have that benefit of being able to pause the recording if you like to answer questions. So we're going to dive in, and you know that you are in the right place if you would like 2024 to be a milestone year for you. You want to define what that means, but you haven't had time. Often that is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to goal setting and creating a wonderful year for yourself. It's that you want to do it, but carving out that time is really challenging. And so I'm just delighted to be able to host this webinar for you and take you through a process that will help you to clarify the goals that you have for the year and how you can go about achieving them. So again, this is for you if you want clear goals to work toward and you would like a plan to get there. You want someone else to lead you through the planning process, and that person is me. Thank you. You want to be challenged with the very questions you know you need to answer to move forward. Now, this is something that comes up often in coaching conversations, and so I'll just give you a little heads up that sometimes the questions I ask can be really difficult to answer. And it doesn't mean that they are questions that you should not answer. And I would invite you to give yourself as much grace as possible. And if a question throws you off a little bit, to simply give it your best answer. You don't have to do A+ work here. Nobody's looking over your shoulder and reviewing your questions or your answers. It's really for you to get clarity about what you want. This is a product, a result that will be yours for your benefit. And then finally, you have ambitious goals for your practice and for your life outside of your practice. So I recognize that lawyers don't practice in a vacuum. You are each humans who have very human lives as well as a law practice. And so the goal here is to create a life and practice that are complementary, that are sustainable, and ones that bring you as much joy as possible. Now, I also wanted to introduce myself. For some of you, you already know me, and so it's just really great to see you. And I'm just looking again at everybody who's here. Oh, it's so nice to see everybody. It's lovely to see everybody logging on. So welcome once again. So if you don't know me, if you haven't worked with me before, my name is Paula Price. I am a certified executive coach, and I work exclusively with lawyers. I am a professional certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. I was, elevated from associate certified coach this year. I passed the exam and met the other requirements, so that was quite exciting. I practiced law for 12 years in private practice before becoming a coach. I was a commercial litigator. I worked primarily at a national law firm, so I know what it's like to be in the trenches with you, what the demands can be, what the expectations can be, but many of the challenges and some of the wonderful opportunities that come along with a legal practice. So I have the benefit of having had that experience. And for the past 5 years, I've been coaching lawyers. I've been doing training, speaking, and developing my coaching practice. So I work with lawyers from those who are at large national firms to those who are solo practitioners and everything in between. I work with lawyers who are in government, who are in-house counsel. And so it really is a tremendous joy and honor that I have the opportunity to work with you. Topics that often come up are leadership, practice management, transitions, so career transitions, whether they are quite obvious from the outside. You go from job A to job B. Sometimes those transitions are not as apparent. It's something that is more of an internal shift that is happening. I help coach around growth, confidence. I help lawyers get aligned with their values, so making their work align with what it is that they want to achieve, and finding balance. And that looks different for everybody, of course. I'm also the host of a podcast. It's called The Joyful Practice for Women Lawyers Podcast. You may have found me through that podcast. that, of course, is a huge source of joy. I try to talk about the topics that are relevant and pertinent to my clients. So if you've listened to that podcast, you may find that it resonates with some of the experiences that you're having. I also bring guests onto the podcast, and I'm hoping to do more of that in 2024. We're looking ahead. So stay tuned. At the end of today's session, I will also be talking about a group coaching and mastermind program that I'm offering for women lawyers. So if you are on today's call and you're not a woman lawyer or you do not identify as a woman, no problem. You're absolutely welcome to be here. I coach male clients as well as women clients, and I love having you here. The program that I'll be talking about at the end is exclusively for women lawyers. Now, with that, we're going to move to the next slide. You probably would love to know what the agenda is for today. We've got about 60 minutes together, and the way that today's call is set up is it is going to be a workshop. I'll ask you 10 questions. These are 10 questions that I've picked on purpose. I'll explain to you why I've picked those questions as we go through the webinar. And by workshop, I am inviting you to work. So you might think of this as a trip to the gym. You can go to the gym and watch somebody else lift weights, and you will not have the same experience as though you were the one going into the gym and lifting the weights. So I understand some of these questions are going to be challenging. And again, I just invite you to participate. So I encourage you to have a pen and paper handy, writing down your thoughts, writing down your notes. That will help crystallize the goals and plans that you have by getting it out of your mind and onto paper is a wonderful way to initiate that process to help you see more clearly where it is you want to go. I encourage you to answer these questions in real time. So if you're here now in person to answer the questions as we go through the webinar, if you're listening to the recording or watching the recording, again, take the time to answer the questions because you will get so much more out of this experience if you choose to do that. Now, just like a trip to the gym, you control the quality of your results by the amount of effort you're willing to put in. So again, I encourage you to dig deep if you need to, answer the tough questions. You will not be disappointed by that in the end. You will thank yourself. And this is about you, right? Think about what the first answer is that comes to mind for you and write that down, right? This is really an excellent opportunity to gain awareness about yourself. And then after today, I'd invite you to take what you learn and apply it. So whether it's with me or whether it's on your own or whether it's with another coach or a mentor, I invite you to take the materials that we create today and to use them moving forward. A couple more things. I will be sending you a recording of this webinar along with the slides. So you'll notice that there are questions that are put in the slides. You're welcome to write them down. I will be giving this to you, so you'll have a copy of those questions. You don't need to write them down. And I would also invite you to participate if you like. There's a chat, there's a Q&A. You're welcome to submit questions through the Q&A. You could do that anonymously if you want. You're welcome to chat, in which case you can send a chat message just to me, or you can send it to everybody. I will leave that to your discretion. Whatever you are comfortable with, I will keep an eye on it. So would love to hear from you. Now we are going to dive in. Question 1. So the first question is a question that I offer for any time that you are going to begin in an exercise that requires you to grow. And you can do, every time you go through, let's say it's a new project or you've just finished a trial or a closing, you might ask yourself 3 questions. Those questions are, what went well, what didn't go well, and what will I do differently next time? So these are 3 questions for self-reflection that I invite you to incorporate into your practice for pretty much anything. I think they're really powerful. And today we're going to use that format to get started. We're going to ask those first 2 questions, what went right, what didn't go right, and we're going to spend the rest of the webinar really thinking about what we're going to do differently next year. So first question, how would you evaluate 2023? What went right? And I'm going to offer you some ideas in terms of where you might look. And as I'm talking, I invite you to start writing this down on your piece of paper. Aim to have at least 5 things that you did right this year. So what are some things you might want to write down? maybe they're goals that you achieved over the course of the year. You may have transitioned jobs. You might have set that up as a goal to switch jobs, to get promoted. You may have had some major wins at work. You may have taken on new projects. You may have mastered the management of your practice. You might look at practice skills, so legal skills that you improved or developed over the course of the year, whether those were skills related to your, let's say, your litigator, maybe it was your oral advocacy, maybe it was your argument writing. If you're a solicitor, maybe you were closing more complex deals, maybe you were taking leadership on certain mandates, maybe you were bringing in new clients. So think about what legal skills, what practice skills you were developing over the course of the year. It might be taking on that leadership role, right? For those of you who are in that stage of your practice where you're building a team up beneath you and you're mentoring, you're delegating, you're supervising, you're offering feedback, that might be something that you're really proud of this year. You might also look at the relationships that you've developed professionally over the course of the year. So maybe you've developed an increased market for your work. Maybe you've developed your community. Maybe you've reached out to new clients, whether those are internal clients if you're at a large firm or organization. Maybe these are external clients if those are the clients that you would work directly with. You may look at your leadership and practice management skills. So time management, delegation, project management. And you might ask yourself what it is that you are most proud of. So these could be opportunities that came to you. They could be decisions that you've made. For a lot of you, there are really difficult decisions that you've been weighing, that you've been going back and forth on. And so you may have made one of those decisions. I understand from working with many clients on making decisions, how difficult it can be to make those decisions and how freeing it can be to be on the other side. You may have had difficult conversations this year that were really challenging for you, but you're so glad you did it. And you may have had moments where you really needed to step in courageously and be brave. So I would invite you to write down all of those things that went right for you this year. I would also ask you to consider what is true today, right? If you were to look back December 2022 and kind of have in mind what has happened over the course of the year, you could ask yourself what is true today in December 2023 that would have surprised you a year ago. So now that we've focused on what went right, and we've done that on purpose, we want to start out when we're evaluating with all of the things that went right, because that really opens you up to thinking expansively, to thinking creatively. We're going to move on to some of the things that maybe didn't go so well over the course of the year. And this is true for everybody. We all have things that didn't quite work out the way that we wanted them to. So some things that may show up for you, maybe they were efforts that didn't yield results. I think we all have that experience where you may invest a lot of time, energy, money even into a particular project, and it doesn't go according to plan. So maybe something like that happened. Maybe you had goals that didn't come to fruition. So you may have set a goal at the beginning of the year and it was something that just simply didn't happen. You never managed to make the time for it, or you did make the time for it and it just didn't work out the way that you were hoping to. And so now you're questioning whether or not that's a goal you would like to keep pursuing. You may have problems that didn't get resolved. This is one that I think is particularly pertinent this time of year, because as we wrap up one year and look ahead to the next, it's very reminiscent, right? You can think back to where you were this time last year, the holiday parties, the lead up to the new year, and what you were thinking. And chances are there are some of those problems that didn't get resolved over the course of the year. So you might make note of those just to have that as part of your reflection. So what went right? What maybe didn't go right? And that next stage, what are you going to do differently next year? That's what we're going to focus on next. Now, before we dive into moving forward, I also invite you to evaluate some of the factors and strategies that influenced how it is that you got to where you are now. So what factors were at play? Now, in that first category, I would invite you to list out all the factors that helped you succeed last year. So what are some of the factors that I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about your strategies, your success strategies, or things that worked in your favor. Some examples. It may be that you worked really hard. It may be that you are very persistent, and so you did not give up. Maybe that you scheduled things into your calendar that were important to you and kept to those things, even if it was difficult. You may have done everything yourself. This is something I'm a little bit guilty of. I was going to say at times, but it's probably more than at times. So you did everything yourself, and so you knew it was done the way you wanted it to be done. That led to success. It could be your proven work product. So you developed a reputation for quality and excellence, and that has allowed you to continue to build a market for your work. You may have formed relationships with various people that resulted in, maybe it's career satisfaction, maybe it's increased mentorship, maybe it's business or practice opportunities, maybe it's new clients, new files, new opportunities at work, maybe you got brought into bigger and more interesting mandates as a result of those relationships. Maybe you were the mentor. Maybe you found that that was really satisfying for you to step into that role. Effort is often a strategy for success. You put the time in to create the results that you wanted. And maybe you were at the right place at the right time, which I often think is a result of something that you created, maybe not on purpose. Maybe it wasn't the specific thing that you were anticipating, but because you were out there, you were meeting individuals, you were producing excellent work, you were making yourself available, that those opportunities were able to find you. So here you've got your list of factors that helped you succeed. Now, next, we're going to look at the factors that held you back. Why is it that you didn't reach those goals? Why is it that some of those problems are still lingering? So often challenges that you might face, a lack of time, right? It's just simply difficult to prioritize certain things when there are so many different areas where you can focus your attention. Procrastination. This is often very well intentioned. You want to do something, you tell yourself you will have time to do it another day, another week, another month. And unfortunately, that leads to a pattern and the thing does not get done. It might be overwhelmed. You might find that it's difficult to make headway in any particular direction because there are too many things going on at once. You might find that you had a lack of support. So you didn't have the support that you needed, whether it was support at work or support outside of work, that held you back. This is quite common. I see it quite a bit with parents of young children, where sometimes you need more support at home in order to be able to put more of your effort and focus at work, if that's what you want. Not everybody wants that. It may have been mindset, right? I think sometimes the biggest thing that holds you back is your mindset, your perception of what's going on, your willingness to move forward when things are not looking very good. That can be a real hurdle. It might also be that you're talking yourself out of it. So there are a number of factors that may be holding you back, and I'd invite you to identify them. The beautiful thing about identifying the factors that serve you and the ones that hold you back is that you are then able to be more strategic in deciding which ones you're going to use and which ones you're going to lose going forward. So you'll see there's a homework question here. If you have time to answer it right now, great, go ahead. But the homework question is, which of these factors are you going to keep? Which ones are creating success for you? Which of them are you going to let go of? And what new factors do you want to incorporate and build into your practice? And if you're wondering why Albert Einstein's face is on this slide, it's because, the quote, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." There's something to be said about using the same strategies to reach different levels of success. So the strategies that you used this year to get you to the place you are now, they were your winning strategies in 2023. But you need to ask yourself if the goal that you have for 2024 is one that can be achieved using that same strategy. So if I take my example of doing it yourself, if that's your strategy for success, then if your next goal is to grow, you may need to let go of that strategy and start enlisting more help. So you might ask yourself, are there any strategies there that may have been helpful to this point, but are now limiting, that you're going to need to switch over as you enter the new year? question number 3. And if you have questions or comments, again, please do feel free to send them in the Q&A in the chat. I am keeping an eye on them. So the next question is your wish list for 2024. Here, I would invite you to not limit yourself, to not think about what's realistic or what's possible or probable even. I would invite you to simply write out a list, write it out as fast as you can. Again, challenge yourself to come up with at least 5 items for this list. And the idea here is for you to create a number of different wishes that you would love to see happen in 2024. So again, I will give you some ideas. Keep writing. You know what's on your wish list better than anybody else. And again, this just speaks to the individuality of this exercise. Each of you, and I just love this, as I was preparing for today, I was thinking about what's important to me about today's presentation. And the thing that is most important to me is that I know that for you watching this webinar, for you who are writing this down on paper, you're writing out dreams and opportunities that are unique to you. And it excites me that I get to be a part of it. It brings me so much happiness to know that you are creating ideas right now that you are then going to act on in the new year. So I absolutely love this. And for each of you, it's going to be so individual. So what might that look like? For some of you, it might be a job transition. It might be you're moving into a new firm, a new organization. You may be being promoted within an organization. You may be making partner. You may be starting your own firm. You may be going out on your own. You may be leaving law. Every so often, someone reaches out to me, and that's something that's very much on their mind. They've practiced for years, but is that where they want to be? That might be you. You may have income goals. You may have goals to generate more work, to enhance and develop your client relationships. You might want to build your profile within your organization, within the legal community. You might want to expand the services that you offer or narrow the services that you offer. You might have goals around practice management. You might find this year just flew by and things were pretty hairy. They went really fast and you managed to get things done, but your systems are not where you want them to be. So part of your goal next year might be just take a step back and put better systems in place. You might find that you're lacking in terms of support. You might need to have additional people come and help you, or you might want to start proactively building your team. You might want to improve your delegation skills in order to do that. Now, you might also find that your goals are more in a personal nature. It's the personal management that you're really focused on this year. Things like developing greater confidence. You might want to experience less stress in your practice or navigate that stress in a more healthy way. You might want to set better boundaries. You might want to create more support for yourself. You might want better health. I think for many of us, especially this time of year, there are so many conflicting demands. And so taking care of your own health may fall to the wayside. And so that might be something that you're really keen to bring back before the new year. So now that you've done your wish list, and I hope for all of you, you've got your wish list items, feel free to share them. Again, there's no pressure. I know for many people who join me on these webinars, it's a private it's a private exercise, and so no need to share, but happy to hear it if you would like to. So this next question is of the items on your list. So you'll have your list now and you can look at it and it's all in your lovely handwriting, or maybe you typed it up on a screen. You're going to need to ask yourself, which one will you choose? Now, realistically, I know you're going to choose more than one goal, but for the purposes of today, I'm going to invite you to humor me and pick a single goal. And the reason for that, you'll see if you're watching the webinar recording or if you're on a webinar right now, that there's an image, right? This comes from Greg McKeown's Essentialism book. And the concept here is that if you have multiple focuses, then that is what things look like on the image on the left, right? You've got your energy, and there are a number of arrows that shoot out, kind of like the spokes on a bicycle wheel, but they only go so far because your energy is split in multiple different directions. So if you have your list of goals and you try to achieve all of them at once, you're less likely to make headway in any one direction. Versus the second image, so the one that's on the right, where you have your energy, you have a single goal, and the arrow goes so much further because you're applying your energy and focus in a single direction. So the invitation here is for you to choose a single goal that you're going to focus on for the new year, for 2024, and throughout today's webinar. Some clues or suggestions to help you pick, because that can be really, really hard, especially if you love all of the items on your wish list. One is to look at what's left over from last year. I mean, sometimes we have these goals and it keeps coming back. You never really get to it. And so there might be an immense sense of satisfaction if you deal with that leftover goal. You might ask yourself, what is causing you the greatest amount of stress day to day? You might ask yourself, and this is a fun one, what energizes you? When you look at that list of goals, one of them might jump out at you. It's almost like somebody highlighted it. It's like the writing is thicker. There's yellow highlight behind it. It's not actually highlighted, but it feels that way. This is a suggestion I often give to job seekers. When you look at the job description and there are those bullet points, and as you're reading through it, some of the bullet points are utterly uninteresting, and yet there are some that seem to leap off the page. This is the same here. If you see a goal on your list that leaps off the page to you, maybe that could be an indication that that's a good goal for you to choose. You might ask yourself if there's any one particular goal on your list that might solve for more than one goal. It's like an umbrella goal. And here you might think of examples, right? If your goal is a revenue goal, for example, that may have a cascading effect because it might mean you need to increase your business development. It may mean you need to enhance your practice management. You may need to capture more time, be more effective or efficient at sending out your invoices. You might need to have more difficult conversations. So you might find that there's a particular goal that if you were to achieve that goal, it would require that you achieve a number of other sub-goals that are important to you. And then finally, you might ask yourself which of the goals will stretch you the most. So you may have heard the expression that when you go after a goal, it's not the achievement of a goal that really matters, it's who you must become in order to achieve it. So if you look at that list of goals, and some of them feel like they're bigger, they're more daunting, you would literally need to transform who you are to have that goal, that might be a reason for you to pick that goal. So now we're going to move on to question 5, which is more of a declaration. The invitation here is for you to declare your goal in one sentence. And the sentence that I'm offering you is 2024 will be the year that. And you get to fill in the blank. 2024 will be the year that I finally get my practice under control. This will be the year. 2024 will be the year that my practice takes off. 2024 will be the year that I make partner. You decide what that is going to sound like. 2024 will be the year that I finally find a job that I love. So you decide what that's going to look like and make that declaration and write it down on paper. And as you do that, I can almost feel the energy in the Zoom room because it has almost an electrifying effect, right? On the one hand, there's excitement. This is a declaration. This is what you're going to accomplish. And on the other hand, it can bring up a lot of doubt because chances are the minute you set that goal, you're going to start seeing the obstacles that stand between you and that goal. So stay tuned, we're going to get there. Now, I hope you've all declared your goal because we are going to move to the next question, which is how will you know that you have achieved your goal? So for some of you, the goal will be really clear, right? If your goal is this is the year that I make partner, then you will know at the end of 2024 whether or not you have made partner. If your goal is to have a better managed practice, that's going to be a little bit harder for you to explain, right? Or to define or to decide if you've actually achieved your goal. So question 6 is the invitation to define your goal in a way that you will know whether or not you have achieved your goal. You might be familiar with SMART goals, specific, measurable, actions, relevance, time-bound. That's a SMART goal. I have my own take on the SMART goal, which is a great goal where I look at the goal, I look at the reason, the energy you want to bring to that goal, the actions you're going to take, the time it's going to take, and a wild card, what else is important here. So here, what I'm inviting you to think about is how are you going to make this goal specific and measurable? So it might have a list of bullet points. If you want a better managed practice, what does that look like? Well, maybe you've got systems for client intake. You've got a disciplined and steady practice of recording your time. You have an efficient way to close files. You have a calendaring system where you sit down every Sunday night or Monday morning, you plan your week and you have regular calendaring throughout the week, Monday to Friday. You don't miss any deadlines. You submit your work, a day before the due date, whatever it happens to be. So you want to create a list of objective criteria that will help you decide whether or not you have reached that goal. So some of them, again, are very easy to ascertain: making partner, a revenue goal, a job transition. Some of these are clearly yes or no questions. If it's something that's a little bit harder to define, you are going to have to define that for yourself. Now that brings us to the next question, which is, what steps must you take? So this is going to be you thinking about reaching that goal. So imagine we're here a year from now, at December 15, 2024, and you have exactly what it is that you declared was going to happen. Now, I can tell you right now, and maybe I'm making this more confusing than it needs to be, but I can tell you right now that whatever you plan, whatever steps you write out on your list, that's not going to be exactly the process that you're going to take to reach your goal. I can almost guarantee it. Now, I still want you to write out your steps, all the steps that you think you're going to take. So again, fast forward a year from now, and you're going to want to write down all the things that you think that you will have needed to do in order to get there. So if you're making partner, for example, it might be submitting your application, making sure you have fulfilled all the requirements that your firm requires. It's having the right relationships in place. If it's a job transition, it's getting your CV in order, figuring out where it is that you want to apply. It's networking. It's asking yourself the questions about where you want to be. It's having the informational interviews. If it's practice management, it might be taking an inventory about what's working, what's not working, and what you want to change. It might be figuring out the new systems that you're going to incorporate. It might be speaking to people that you know who have really excellent time management practices, etc. So make a list, make it as long as you need it to be. You can always come back to this sheet that you're writing on or this document that you're creating and tidy it up later. Right now, what we're really focused on is just getting the ideas out on paper, right? For you to come away with an action plan, we need for you to record some of the steps that you're going to take. And believe me, you are very well suited and very well qualified to know what those steps are going to be for you. Now, I'm going to give you another moment to continue to write steps, but I do want to go back to this idea that the steps are not necessarily the way you're going to reach your goal. And I invite you to bear that in mind, because there is a certain magic that happens. I can't really explain it, but what you will find is that when you start taking steps toward your goal, there is a way for opportunities to then start coming to you. And I've seen this in my own practice. I've seen this in the practices of the lawyers that I have worked with, where they start working on a particular goal and they're in the direction of goal A, but then opportunities start coming to them that are also in the direction of goal A. So it's really important for you to identify these steps, to start following these steps, and to also be open to steps that you may not foresee that are going to help you reach your goal. So we are now moving on to step number 8, or question number 8. And that question is, what are your obstacles? So if you're here with me live, you see that I have put your in bold and it's underlined. What are your obstacles? And I have done that for a reason. When you set out your goal, right? When you write that declaration, and it's almost like there's that that leap in your heart that says, oh my gosh, this is really big. I won't be able to do it. This seems scary. It's like you're automatically jumping to all the reasons why this goal is not going to be possible for you. So this is actually a gift. It doesn't seem like that, I know, but It is creating a roadmap that is unique to you. Your obstacles are going to be different from everyone else's obstacles. Now, there are some obstacles that are fairly common, but for you, the obstacles are going to test you in ways that are unique to you. There's a lovely expression and also a book. What stands in the, or is it the obstacle is the way? I think that's the book, but the expression is what stands in the way is the way. So as you identify your obstacles, that will help you learn where it is that you need to make some changes, where you may need to grow. So some common obstacles, and again, I encourage you to write them down. Time, making your goal a priority. So what you might find is that if your goal is not time sensitive, if it's not immediately revenue generating, if it's something that you care about, but nobody else is really involved, you might find it's really easy to put that goal aside when other things come up, things that are urgent, things that people are asking you for, things where you'll actually get that immediate sense of gratification because you're dealing with something on the fly. A lack of urgency can be a problem. So maybe you have the time, but your goal in itself isn't urgent. And so it's easier to push it off. It's easier to tell yourself, I can deal with this tomorrow. It might be the slow progress, right? So if you have a goal and it's a fairly big goal, maybe it's redoing all of your systems, there is a large amount of energy, relatively speaking, that is going to be required at the very beginning that probably won't yield much reward. You can think about a closet. Let's say you need to clean out a hallway closet or your own closet or your kid's closet, and it's a complete mess. And you know that it's going to require that you take everything out of the closet, examine each of those items, make a bunch of decisions about what goes in and what gets thrown away. All of that is an enormous amount of mental energy, but at the end, you're going to have this result of a very clean, organized closet. But it's hard to see that result. It's hard to hang your hat on that when what you have in your face is this difficult, energy-consuming initiation. And I've heard that a rocket uses 90% of its fuel to lift itself off the ground and enter the Earth's stratosphere or atmosphere or whatever you call that. I'm not a science math person or an outer space person, but you can apply that same analogy to yourself. 90% of that energy may be burned, may be required simply to get started. And then once you're started, momentum picks up and it's much easier to move forward. So you might find that you have started trying to build your practice, to improve your practice, to find that next new job, and that you're not getting very many results. And that might be extremely discouraging. And I encourage you to keep going. So slow progress is a real hurdle for many people. And failure, right? You might put your heart and soul into something and it doesn't go according to plan. And that can be really disappointing. I had a chat with a client recently, or a lawyer recently, where that was something that they were experiencing, right? This disappointment, and how do I move forward from this place of disappointment? So my invitation to you is to forecast that as an obstacle. And then for your homework, we're not going to do this today unless you have time or you've had time to do this already. Your homework then is to write a plan for each of these obstacles. So step one is, what are the obstacles? Step two, figure out now, before you reach those obstacles, what you're going to do in respect of each of them. An example of this that I heard of recently was somebody who was going to bring in a friend to work in their organization. And they were anticipating that there could be some challenges there because they were friends. And so what they decided to do was to preemptively have conversations about what could potentially happen so that they both knew what they would do in the situation where it did happen. So here, what you want to be doing is imagining that the obstacle's coming and using your best judgment, your best exercise of imagination to figure out what a good solution would be and to give that solution to yourself so that when the hurdle comes your way, you're prepared for it. You can tell yourself, aha, I knew this was going to happen, or I thought this could happen. Nothing's gone wrong here. I'm prepared for this, and this is the path that I'm going to follow. And so then you can follow your protocol. Now, you might find that it works really well. You might find it works okay, but you need some adjustments. You might find it doesn't work at all, but that's okay. Even if it doesn't work, you get to recalibrate and move forward. Just because there's obstacles doesn't mean that you should not keep moving forward. Now we've got 2 questions left here. So great job. You are doing a fantastic job of moving forward and proceeding with your goal. So this next question is, what resources do you have to support you? So we've talked about the obstacles and what might stand in your way, but chances are there are a lot of resources that you have already that can help you to reach your goal. So you might look, first of all, at your physical environment. If you look around where you are right now, do you have the space that you need to work on the goal that you have for yourself? You might think about your management of your goal, your planning and executing, and how you are managing your time. Do you have the resources that you need in terms of the support, in terms of calendaring, in terms of reminders, in terms of accountability? Do you have those things for you? Maybe you want to have an accountability partner. Maybe you want to have someone like me who can help coach you. So do you have that support for you? Professionally and personally, do you have the relationships that you want that will support you? So again, do you have professional colleagues, whether they are mentors, whether they are staff or other lawyers who support you in your work? Do you have those people there who can support you? Do you have the time that you need? Do you have the financial resources that you might need? Do you need to go out and seek financial resources, depending on the project that you're looking for? And then friends and family. So these are some ideas of some of the resources that you may already have in place that support you. And the question is, okay, let's list all of those resources out. And the next question is, what other resources might you need? So it might be that you need additional support at work. You might need additional support at home. And this could be with the execution of tasks. It may be that there are aspects of your practice that have become routine to you. Maybe you do not need to do them. Maybe you can bring somebody else in, train them, and they can take that off your desk because you want to be doing something different. It may be the same at home. You may be doing components of the domestic life where you just want to bring somebody else in to help you with that so that it can free up more time so you can focus on something else. So you're wanting to think about the resources that you might need that can help you to free up time, space, and energy and move forward with your goals. So we're doing really well here in terms of time. We have 1 question left, so that is great. And then after that question, again, I will have time to take questions if you have any, but we'll be there in just a few minutes. So I'm going to invite you to imagine yourself. So we've already started this exercise a few questions ago. The idea being, to imagine yourself on December 31st, 2024. Having achieved your goal. So again, that declaration that you made, you are now there. And the question I have for you here is, what advice would you give yourself today? So if you have your goal, you've already reached it, you can imagine yourself there. So if it is a goal to have a new job, imagine yourself in that new role, right? Imagine you have the work that you've been dreaming about. You have the office or the home office that you have been dreaming about. You have relationships, you have colleagues that you love working with. You can see the direction of where you're taking your career. You have everything you want. Maybe practice management is your goal. And so you see yourself a year from now and you don't feel rushed. You've met all the targets that you wanted to meet for the year. You have systems in place. You know that if things go off the rails, you can always bring them back. So that might be where you are a year from now. Maybe it's an income goal, a revenue goal, and you've reached that revenue goal. So you are in that position, you did certain things to get there, whether it was client development, seeking out new work, whether it was tightening up your systems, whether it was asking for a raise or increasing your rates, depending on how you generate revenue in your practice. So imagine you're there. Imagine you've accomplished all the things that you want to accomplish. What advice would you give yourself today? Now, for homework, for anybody who is minded to take this question even further, I would invite you to write yourself a letter explaining how you got there. This can be a really powerful exercise. Again, you are channeling your own inner wisdom, your own inner mentor, to help you to identify the steps that you're going to need to take. It may also include some of these strategies, right? These factors that helped you or that held you back. You might have something to say about that a year from now, some of the new strategies that you implemented that helped you reach a next level of success. It might be an explanation of all the obstacles and how you were able to overcome them. It might help you understand how you felt in the moment. I can tell you that for most people, when they go after their goals, there's a real mix. It's almost like a roller coaster sometimes, where you may have really high highs and really low lows. So you might tell yourself in advance, right? You're going to have some challenges. You're going to have some great times. Don't worry. Keep going forward. You're going to get to exactly where you want to be. Here's what you need to keep in mind. So that's homework for you if you would like to take that on. And again, I will be sharing these slides with you, so you'll have everything written down if you'd like it. So those are the 10 questions. Those are the 10 questions. So I'm just going to recap them for you now. The first question was the evaluation. Looking back at 2023, what went right, what didn't, so that's the first question. The second question, what factors were at play? So what factors supported you in achieving what you wanted to achieve? What factors maybe held you back? Question number 3, what is on your wish list for 2024? Question 4, of the items on your list, what stands out as most important? Question 5, declare your goal in one sentence. So 2024 is the year that. Question 6, how will you know that you have achieved your goal? So if it's obvious, great, you may partner. If it's not obvious, then you can create some measurable and specific items so that you'll know if you've achieved it. What steps must you take? What are your obstacles? What might stand in the way between you and your goal? Question 9, what resources do you have to support you? And then finally, question 10, what advice would you give yourself? So you have worked very hard. Thank you. I'm really pleased for you and hope that you have set yourself up now for creating what it is that you want sustainably in the new year. And on the note of sustainability, I also wanted to include here that the sustainability is really built into the framework and the concept of the work that we've done here. And sustainable practice, building sustainable success is about the process. It's about setting yourself up in advance and anticipating the obstacles and being kind to yourself. So this has been a theme throughout today's webinar, this idea of clarity of your goals, knowing your obstacles, having your supports in place, and choosing strategies that sustain you. And that might mean shedding old habits for new ones. Now, I would like to chat a little bit about a program that I am offering that starts in January. And it is the Joyful Practice Group Coaching and Mastermind Experience for Women Lawyers. So I'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about this. It is a program that I have been running since last year. It's a group of women lawyers, like-minded, high-achieving, amazing women lawyers, up to 8 in the group. And the idea here is for you to take the goal that you have set for the new year and to work on it alongside a group of women lawyers who are all working on their goals as well. So we do it in terms of monthly themes. There's 6 months, 6 themes. So we start out in January with goal setting. So we take your goal and we break it down and we define it. We help set you up for the course of the 6 months together. Then we move on to self-concept in February. So the idea there is to look at the goals that you've set for yourself and to ask yourself who you need to be or become to have achieved that goal. So this is an exercise in evolving your self-concept to align with the goals that you have set for yourself. In March, we look at obstacles. So again, the obstacles being something that is unique to you, and we focus on how to overcome those obstacles as you work toward your goal. In April, we talk about confidence, authority, and power. So confidence, authority, and power are, I don't think, topics that are discussed enough, particularly among women lawyers. And the question I like to ask is, if you were at full confidence, a full authority, if you believed you had full power, what might you be doing differently in your practice? And what would be the impact of that on you, on your clients, on your practice? So we spend a month in that topic and having some really powerful discussions around that. We move to boundaries next in May. So when you set a goal and you need to protect your time, you need to protect your resources in pursuit of that goal, that means putting up boundaries against other things. And so we look at how to create boundaries in a way that is sustainable and elegant. And then finally, in the last month, we focus on sustainable growth. So we take all the work that we've done in the first 5 months and we set you up for success moving forward. And I'm delighted to be wrapping things up with my second group, this week and next. We had an amazing group. Both groups are absolutely amazing. We had a group of women go through the program last January to June, and we just had a reunion call yesterday, and it was so lovely. There's such a strong bond between the women in these groups, and the conversations that we can have, the experiences that we can share. So it's just a really wonderful room to be in. In addition to the 6 themes of the month, we also have 2 bonus classes. So career transitions is one class. If you're not transitioning careers, then you might look at it more from a transitions standpoint, but it's a topic that applies to pretty much everybody that I coach. Usually there's some sort of a transition that you're looking to make. And so this is a really helpful class for giving you a framework to navigate those transitions. And time management. And this has looked different for each of the groups. I tailor the classes so that they respond to the needs of the group. So we do time management, which I think everybody is always interested in how to approach time. There's also, for everybody who enrolls, a one-to-one coaching opportunity. So I do 30-minute coaching sessions, usually once at the beginning, once at the end, to help you to form your goal, to stay accountable, and to address any questions that you have along the way. So there's 2 group calls monthly, usually the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. They're pretty consistent. Sometimes I have to change the timing, but I really try not to do that. And that's the program itself. And if it's something that you're interested in, I will be sending you some information. So when you receive the recording, I will also send a link to the course page that will give you more information about the course. And of course, if you've got any questions about it, then do feel free to email me about it, because I'm really excited. I'm really would love to create a group again in January to foster this connection and growth. So would absolutely love to have you in this group if it is something that you are interested in doing. And I'm just looking at some of the comments, and yes, this is really, really great. Yeah, I mean, this is a wonderful opportunity. There's a note here about solo practitioners and some resources for them. That's fantastic. We do have solo practitioners who have joined the group in the past. We've had lawyers from large firms, lawyers from smaller firms, lawyers from solo practices, in-house. So it really is a wonderful mix. Lawyers who are just starting out their new practices. And so it really is an opportunity to create community. I see there's a note here also about confidence being an obstacle. Absolutely. And so sometimes when you have an environment where you can share and see how other women lawyers are approaching problems and some of the challenges that they are having, it can be so empowering, because then you see yourself in the way that they have described a particular situation, and you get to have the benefit of then troubleshooting together and coming to solutions together. And I, of course, am leading the discussions as your coach. So that is what I have to share with all of you. If you have questions, then please let me know. You're welcome to pose questions today, or you can pose your questions after. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined me here today. It really is wonderful to have you. I did want to extend a shout out. Emma, you posted Hang Our Own Shingle group on WhatsApp. So for anybody listening who's a solo practitioner who would like to find support, then that is also a resource for you. So hopefully that is something that will help you. I know lots of solo practitioners have asked me for resources for solo practitioners. So that's really helpful. Thank you, everybody. I see the lovely comments in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope that all of you, whether you are here with me live today or if you are listening to the recording, that you are that you've been able to articulate for yourself a goal or goals that you have for the new year, that you feel confident in the path that you have to get there, that you now have a greater clarity around what kind of obstacles you're going to be facing, what resources that you have for you. And if joining the Joyful Practice group coaching and mastermind experience is something that you are interested in, I would absolutely love to hear from you. So I don't see any questions, so I'm going to sign off for today. But just wanted to thank you again and wish all of you a really wonderful holiday season and all the best in the new year. And please let me know how things unfold. I'd love to hear how your 2024 declarations have come to fruition for you. Thank you again, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.